Welcome to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide Jason. One of the most common tropes in creating a monster is to mix an animal with a human, such as a bull and human for the Minotaur. But what about a scorpion man? Are there any in mythology? And they do exist, and are called the Aqrabuamelu, but you might see them called the Aqrabuamelu, or the uncivilized scorpion. In fact, there are a couple of variants to be precise. They appear in the Enuma Elish, an epic come from ancient Babylon, and happens to include the tale of Gilgamesh. Now, the scorpion men were created by Tiamat, among many other monsters, after the gods murdered her husband, Apsu, and that is a story unto itself, which I plan to cover for Mother's Day in a couple of months. Afterwards, they would stand guard at the Mashu Mountains, protecting the gates for the sun god Shamash. When they are the guardians of Shamash, they are more commonly said to have been created by the god Enki. Every morning, they would open the gates for the god to exit, and close them every evening. These gates would lead to the home of the gods, in Kurnugi, also called Kur. This was the underworld ruled by Ereshagal. Gilgamesh would meet them in his travels after the death of his friend Enkidu. He describes them as terrifying, and a gaze like death. And here is where it gets fun. Across all the myths, we actually get 3 different descriptions. The first is much closer to what you expect. A human torso rising up from the body of a scorpion, where its head should be. Others are a bit different, having them stand upright like a human on only 2 feet, but with chicken legs. They will have multiple arms and legs coming from their side. Often this version will have 2 tails. The last version is between the other 2. But sometimes that version is also said to have a bird's body. Oh, and in the Epic of Gilgamesh, it directly mentions the existence of the scorpion women. Okay, it is easy to figure out how we got the multiple versions. One made by Tiamat, and the other from Enki. And the third option could be from them crossbreeding. The 2 names would come from the 2 different origins. Though, there is an oddity. They are tied to the sun god, and some sources even say that they become weaker at night. But most scorpions are nocturnal, so it doesn't make sense on the surface level. However, the answer might be in the human eyes. Our eyes aren't the best for night vision, and that could be the issue they face. Their behavior is well documented. They will very rarely go far from the gate, and they are usually only aggressive to those attempting to enter the gate uninvited. This makes them very predictable. For simplicity on their biology, let's go with the more common human torso coming from the scorpion body. Now, scorpions are arachnids like spiders, and their internal organs are very different from humans. Rather than lungs like a human, they have book lungs, like most spiders. But unlike spiders, their digestive tract is more spread out. So one option would be to use the human torso for breathing. The human lungs are in the torso, so long as the diaphragm is included, the human section would work perfectly for respiration, and that means we can just use the scorpion body for the digestive tract. Honestly, this makes for a pretty basic biology. Now, I'm not sure how much of the body is covered in the scorpion's chitinous shell. If they wish to grow, they would need to shed this chitinous shell, at least if it is the same kind of carapace that other arachnids have. But there is an option which might let us skip the shedding, and that would be to have their chitinous shell be made of something more akin to human nails. It wouldn't be as hard, but would allow for more growth without going through the full molting process. At least in theory. Otherwise, not too many questions. There is a good chance that they would be fluorescent, as many scorpions are. Now, it does say that there are scorpion women, but I'm not sure they would have breasts. Breasts serve as a way to promote interaction between various generations, and promote education and growth. But scorpions already spend a lot of time on childcare. The females will carry their children on their back to protect them, and this provides for plenty of protection and support to get through their earliest stages. But here is where it gets disturbing. The scorpion young will remain on their mother's back until their first molting. Until then, they lack the ability to eat or sting. Instead, they have a lovely sucker, and you can guess where they are feeding while on the mother's back. So yeah, it might be easier on the mother to have breasts. But there is a perfectly fine alternative, assuming a little alteration to the mouths of their offspring. Honestly, one of these sounds much less stressful. As for their phylogeny, I would assume that they are closely related to creatures like the Japanese spider woman, the Jorogumu. Now, how would you battle these gate guards? Well, they are said to even be terrifying to a demigod like Gilgamesh. This is a guy who has thrown down with a dozen other monsters already. So let's assume that they are pretty tough. Their chitinous shell is likely going to be comparable to plate armor, which means rather than trying to stab it, you would be better to try and squash it. Get something really big and really heavy to swing at it. Unless you can strike a weak point in the chitin, chances are a bow isn't going to be really useful. Yet this thing has some offensive power. This thing has the clawed pincers up front, and a long whip-like tail which has a venom. And then it has hands! Where do you start? Well, your bow is probably useless, but theirs won't be. Honestly, this would be my first choice for their weapons. Give them a bow and arrow and attack at range. And if you try to close it, well, then let the tail slap you around, or grab you in the pincers and let it pull you apart. And these pincers could just as easily pick up a sword and shield. If you want to gamble a sword, cutting off their legs will take a few swings. You will want to remove the legs on one side until it falls over. Don't try and take both sides out. Though, if you are fast, a sword at the throat might work, assuming that there isn't any chitin there too. So what do you do? Well, I would want armor. You will want something which can block the stinger. So plate is best, but things like gambeson might work. Maybe. But I'd still take the plate armor. And protect your joints and openings, thus the shield wouldn't hurt. Plate will also help protect against being crushed by the pincers, or at least limit it. Though little to do against being pulled apart, the best option is to avoid the claws. And that brings up a few openings, namely attacks from behind. That large tail will likely create a blind spot, yet the tail can still twist about to strike you. Oh, it is more difficult, but not impossible. But you aren't dealing with the pincers, and you can strike then. Magic will be invaluable here. First up, anything to remove the venom. If you get stung, get an antidote in you right away. After that, I am curious about fire. They are tied to the sun god, and they are likely going to have high fire and light resistance to deal with. But darkness is another thing. They are said to lose some of their power at night. So what would happen if you cast a spell of darkness? Remove them from the light. In theory, that should leave them weaker, and every bit helps. Another option is to use ice and earth magic to bind the legs and weigh down the tail, but that will take a lot of work to pull off. Of course, lightning will be a great option here. However, there is one opening you could exploit, and that would be to attack from below and above. This will require a lot of planning and power to pull off, maybe getting a catapult and launch a few boulders, but that will definitely take some preparation for it to work. The worst case scenario would be if they have any form of magic of their own, probably clerics. They are the gate guards of a god, so I wouldn't put it past them. This isn't going to be an easy fight. This creature has great defenses and plenty of offensive options. There are very few good options and openings for you to exploit here, and that is why I'm going to give them a 6 to 10 for difficulty. If you manage to defeat the Scorpion Man, you'll get access through the gate, which means both the home of the gods and the underworld. That is an incredible option to be sure, but with the body, you can harvest the chitin to create armor. I doubt it would be as good as metal plate, and you could eat the meat depending on your morals. Yet the best option would be to ally with them. They are not evil creatures, but the protectors of a god. That means you can work with them. Perched on their back, you would have a safe point where you can use spells or a bow to incredible use. Oh, there are a couple of dangers. They won't like you if you shoot them in the back, so side shots might be the best option. And the second would be if they hit you with its tail. But that is a low chance. Hopefully. So what do you think, adventurers? Do you think you could handle the Scorpion Man? If you meet one, you'll probably be scared out of your mind seeing such a massive and powerful foe. And I don't blame you. Even a god felt that they were great protectors, and Gilgamesh feared them. Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next time. Until then, I'll see you on the roads.